guys, welcome back. So today we are going to be talking about the CZ Shadow 2 carry. This is chambered in 9mm. It is CZ's answer to all the CZ fanboys like myself to come out with a EDC version of their competition pistol, the CZ Shadow. And they delivered. This gun I have been carrying. I got it about a month after it was released. I found one. I had to get my hands on it because I was so excited when they finally came out and released this that I just couldn't help it. I had to get one immediately as soon as I possibly could. And it has delivered. I have well over 1,500 rounds to this gun. I have shot competitively with it. I've trained with it. I have carried it ever since the day I got it. And words are hard to describe how much I absolutely love this gun. So to be fair, this is going to be a gush video, but we're going to kind of go over it. We're going to compare it to a couple of other CZs, and we're just going to kind of go over why I enjoy it so much, why I like it, why I intend to continue to carry it as my EDC for the foreseeable future, and just give an overview of my thoughts of the firearm after a year of carrying it and 1,500 rounds through it. So stick around. We're going to go into it, and I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody. So here it is, the Shadow 2 carry. So first and foremost, let's drop the magazine, show clear. Remember clear. Decock that down. So here it is, the Shadow 2 carry. And let's just start from an aesthetics point of view. Like, from an aesthetics perspective, I just really love the way this gun looks. I love the lines, the texture on the grip. The slide cuts are really nice. There's really nice purchase power there on both sides. Just all the line work and everything. If you're just really a fan of good looking firearms, this definitely is one of them. The grip texture is a really nice, they did a really good job on this grip texture, in my opinion. It's not so aggressive that it feels like it's going to tear up your hand while you're shooting, but it's grippy enough to where you don't really feel like the gun's going to bounce out of your hand if your hands are wet or if they're sweaty or something like that. It really doesn't feel like the gun is going to come out of your hand at all. I haven't noticed anything like that. There are really no hot spots on the firearm. And what I mean by hot spots is where, you know, a lot of times, if you've ever fired like older 1911s, the dovetails tend to curve. And when you're shooting, that dovetail wants to dig into your hand right here. There's nothing like that here. This is another common spot where you can get like some rub marks right here where your fingers are touching right under here as the gun's going off. Haven't noticed anything like that. No rough edges anywhere on this gun. They really polish this. It really, really feels, if you've ever fired the CZ Shadow, the competition gun that CZ is just well known for, this really feels just as smooth and as awesome to shoot as that gun. It really holds up. The slide is super smooth to pull back from any angle, from a top barrels pull to here to at the mat or at the optic. It's really, really a smooth pull. I don't feel like it's locking up anywhere or getting hung up. It just every time feels really smooth to pull back and get a good grip, get a good solid grip on. The trigger itself is super nice. I mean, it's really impressive. One of the things that everybody, a quick history lesson. So one of the things, when everybody, CZ fanboys were asking for this, CZ came out with what they called the CZ Shadow Compact, which really was just a real slimmed down version of their CZ Shadow competition gun. And the biggest problem that everybody had with that, it was super neat, super fast, super smooth. They did a good job of that gun, but the biggest problem that they had, that, well, most of us had, was it was not completely drop safe. And I will get into that in just a little bit. But one of the things, I'll get into more details about that in just a minute. But one of the things was when they did make this gun completely drop safe was a lot of people were maybe concerned with trigger function and slide function, because when they add the firing pin block into this gun, it does change the dynamic about it just a little bit. But to me, and the way it feels to me, is there's really no hang up. I don't feel any hang up when I pull this gun back. It's, even after 1,500 plus rounds, this is still just smooth, a smooth action to pull back on. Even at an awkward angle, it is super, super easy to pull that slide back and get it back into battery, or mess with it, or do whatever you need to do with it. As far as trigger is concerned, I'll kind of give you an idea of what the trigger is with the hammer back. So here we go. We're going to pull it, and there's the release. So we'll show you the reset on that. And there it is. It's just really a crisp feel to it. There's not a lot of jerk there, or there's no, the best way I can describe it, on some like striker fire pistols, people might notice that there's like this kind of scratchy feel to those, to a trigger. And a metal trigger group, you know, is going to be different than plastic anyways. But even with some hammer fire firearms, you can kind of feel like this scratchy kind of feel to it as you're pulling that trigger back to the wall, and then coming back to fire the gun, you'll feel like right about into that wall to the release, you'll feel like this kind of, the best way I can describe it is just a scratchy kind of rough feeling as you're pulling the trigger back. And that just does not exist with this firearm. It really does not. It's a real smooth pull and a real smooth reset. And in double action, that's where it really shines, because it's a much longer reset, yes, but it's just a really smooth return, a really smooth pull, nothing really jerky or rough feeling about that, and then the reset is just a really cool, smooth return to shooting.
Let's do it, moving.
So let's go over some mounting systems for the firearm itself. As far as lights are concerned, lights are really just going to be a preference. The locking system is pretty standard, pretty nice. Every firearm manufacturer out there pretty much has that set, pretty much got that done on lock. I'm running a Olight PL Pro Valkyrie. My preference is I just like the bigger lights. I like more light. I like the extension, the fact that it comes out past the barrel so that it doesn't, if you need it for close quarter issues, you don't run the risk of putting the gun out of battery when you need it to be. That's pretty standard. As far as the optic is concerned, I'm running a Holosun 507K. Really like that optic. And this gun in particular, as the mounting plate or the mounting spec was specifically designed for these smaller RMS red dots or optics. And when I originally got it, I was never a red dot fan, not on pistols anyways. Of course, rifles are a completely different story for red dots and scopes and the like. But as far as optics on a pistol, I was always a big proponent of iron sights because of concerns about losing the dot due to battery change out, even though you should be changing your batteries out long before they go out just to keep them fresh. But oftentimes with a lot of pistols, you end up losing your rear iron sight to get the optic mounted. And CZ just, in my opinion, did a really great job because it completely changed my tune on this particular issue. The reset is just enough to where it first of all, you don't lose your iron sights, your factory iron sights, but it resets enough to where if you ever have an issue with your light or with the optic, or if it breaks or anything like that, the iron sights, in my opinion, are the perfect height to get above the line of sight of your dot and be able to still run this weapon without any issue. I actually had a problem, which I'll put the video up here, where my dot, I was shooting a competition and my dot went blank. And it turned out it was because I didn't have the buttons locked and the buttons got pressed. And when it got pressed into the negative and dropped the dimness all the way down to nothing. So when that happened, I pulled the firearm up to shoot at targets and I had no dot. So after a brief kind of mental reset, I switched to using the iron sights and it was great. It worked perfectly. It was actually like a real world moment where that idea in your mind kind of goes, well, if the dot ever goes out, I'll have the backup iron sights and I'll be able to still be able to use the gun. It worked flawlessly. So I was beastly impressed with that. And they get away with that by having this cut just enough to be able to fit that on here, maintain the iron sights with that sight picture just above, as you can see, kind of just above where that dot, where it doesn't interfere with the dot and it doesn't interfere with the base plate at all, and really makes it smooth and easy to manage and function. Especially under pressure. It's just, you'll see in the video here, I'll post it in just a moment, where it's a brief kind of mental reset so that you recognize that you're using your irons and not the dot, but it was a really smooth transition and it was really easy to get into.
Oh no. Two each on these. Yeah. Good. Way over there.
One thing I'll add real quick about the slide cut for the optic is some people with the P09, which is the new variant of the P07, CZ's P07, the P09 is the new variant of that. One of the issues that people were having or seem to be having with that gun is having reliability issues, and a lot of people feel like it's because the slide cut is affecting maybe the weight and balance of the slide as it reciprocates when you're firing rounds, which is weird because Cajun Gunworks has been doing slide cuts to these guns for many, many, many years. CZ was really behind the ball with optics cuts for a while, and Cajun Gunworks was doing it. And Cajun Gunworks was able to do it with no problem. Well, at least with this gun, as far as I've seen and the experience I've had with this one, I haven't had any jamming issues. I haven't had any slide issues. I haven't had any cracking issues. I haven't had any issues with the gun and the optic mount. The whole system really runs smooth and flawlessly. And speaking of other CZ guns, let's just make a direct comparison with the CZ Shadows 2's big older brother, the CZ Shadow 2, the competition pistol. Now, as you can kind of see, I mean, this is a much beefier version of the same gun, and let's do a quick check real quick. Everything there is good. Now, one cool aspect of these two guns is, so this is the CZ Shadow magazine, and it fits and locks in just fine with a CZ Shadow 2 carry. Now, they haven't come out, or at least I haven't found anybody yet. I'm still on the hunt for a base plate that will clear that a little bit. But to be honest with you, I kind of like that, because if you've ever had a malfunction, being able to get a firm and have the magazine jammed in, like you can't get the magazine out because of a jam or something, having to be able to really get a hold of that, especially in competition, to be able to get that and rip that magazine out so that you can get your next magazine in there. I kind of dig that. I kind of like that feature, but some people might have an issue with the fact that they're and wanting to try to find a base plate that will go all the way up to the grip, but it will accept these magazines right here. So, you know, kind of a direct comparison. You know, this is the older brother, and you can tell it's significantly shorter, and that's about the extent of it. It's significantly shorter. The grips, it is a bit, and it's hard to get in frame. Let's see if I can get that for you guys. It's not a massive difference. The grip on the Shadow itself is significantly longer than the grip, say, on the carry. But again, this is a compact. This is considered a carry firearm. This is a competition gun that is significantly beefier and bigger. As far as weight, this is significantly heavier than this gun due to material choices to be able to get this gun into a smaller class so that it can be carried, because trying to carry on this is heavier than most 1911s I've seen. And this is, to me, 8 ounces. And I mean 1 or 2 ounces with this aluminum frame compared to this composite frame. Ounces difference. It's negligible. In my opinion, it's negligible. Some people may notice it. Some people may feel it's a heavy gun compared to this one, compared to the P07 or the P09. But to be honest with you, it's negligible to me. I don't notice any difference. One thing that I want to show you guys real quick, and it is the major difference between these two guns. Really, honestly, it's like CZ copied this gun, made this gun, and shrank it and compact it a little bit to make it as smooth as operation as the favorite, everybody's favorite, this competition Shadow. The triggers are almost identical. There is a firing pin block in this gun that is not in this gun. And what that is I'm going to show you. We'll take these apart real quick and I'll show you what this is. Okay, so we have the Shadow 2 and the Shadow 2 carry slides taken apart off the lowers of the guns. And we're going to flip them up right here. And we're going to look at the backside here. Now, get a little screwdriver here. So what you'll notice is on the Shadow 2, there's this circle kind of piston kind of button here. You'll notice that on the Shadow 2, the competition, there's nothing right there. And what this is the firing pin block. And what this does is it acts like it just as the name suggests, it adds like a block for the firing pin. So if the hammer were to come down and this was not depressed, I'll get you a close-up of that so you can kind of see that depresses right here. So with the hammer down, or with the hammer back, if the trigger isn't pulled to push this firing pin block down or up, depending on the perspective you have, up or down, depress this. If the trigger doesn't depress this, if the hammer comes down because it's been dropped or because of damage to the gun or whatever, when it hits here, if this isn't depressed up or depressed, the firing pin can't be struck. And if the firing pin can't be struck, you can't send a round downrange. And we'll see what that looks like on the lower here. So this is the carry 2. If you look right here, there's on the backside of the hammer group here, there's this little arm right here. Let me get that into focus for you. There's this little arm right here. And that is what, as you're pulling the trigger back, this actually lifts up, depressing that little firing pin block right before the hammer comes down. So let's see if we can't demonstrate that. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but let's see if I can't. Now you see, I've barely put any effort into that, and we're already moving the trigger. This is the trigger up against the wall. I'll show you. The trigger to the wall, and you can see that little arm starting to rise. And as you pull back, it rises a little more. The hammer's going to come forward. That's the trigger fully depressed. the little arm here is going to push up on that firing pin block as the hammer is coming down, striking the firing pin, sending the round downrange. And if you look at the lower of the competition, it does not have that little arm because it does not have a firing pin block, which means it does not have that extra drop safe that everybody was big concerned about carrying these around, or carrying the compact version, which was originally what CZ brought out as their carry version of the Shadow 2. That is the major difference between these two firearms. Other than the weight and size, as far as polishing, as far as movement, as far as accuracy, as far as just a joy and pleasure to shoot, that is going to be the biggest difference. And the fact that it has that firing pin, the firing pin block, firing pin safety like that, makes this gun an incredibly, very, very tried and true, safe way to carry. And I'll show you one more real quick. So on the P07, just to kind of show you that CZ has been doing it for quite a long time. Let's see if you can just see it without taking it apart. Yeah. It's exactly the same on this P07, which is an older version of their new P09. So this gun is kind of an older gun in CZ's arsenal. But that design is very common with CZ and a lot of firearms manufacturers just in general. It's a very common design and it works very well. The other thing that people are concerned about that I've heard is, does it affect the trigger pull? Yes, but it's very slight. So when you put anything like this, it creates an interference with the trigger. So the trigger because there's this slight interference that's being created when you pull the trigger by the control arm here, right here. It does make the trigger slightly heavier, but everything else is so polished and smooth that it is noticeable. But honestly, I hesitate to say that it's noticeable at all. I can feel it because I've shot both these guns. I'm familiar with both these firearms. I've shot many other CZs over my life, and I can tell you that yes, I can feel it, but it's negligible. It's truly negligible. So real quick, we'll do a quick teardown or a field strip of the firearm. So you drop the magazine, make sure the firearm's clear. And on most CZs, like an SP01 or the 75 or Shadow 2 or the P07, any of their hammer fire guns, really any of their guns, it's really similar. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to have to bring the slide back just a little bit, and you have to depress this pin to bring the mag release out, which will allow the slide and barrel spring and everything to slide off of the lower to be able to get to all the internals. Now, this can be kind of a pain in the butt, and one thing that CZ does recommend is you have to line it up. They have a little tick mark, and the idea is that you line up that tick mark just like that. There's one on the slide and one on the lower. Let's see if I can get it closer. You can see those. And the idea is that you're supposed to kind of line those up like that, which will allow you to be able to depress that to pull out the slide release to be able to allow it to do it. It can be kind of tough, especially if the gun is dry and hadn't been cleaned in a while. So one thing that they recommend is you can take their magazine and you kind of take the tip of it right there and you use it to press it in. It's kind of a pain in the butt. Let's see if we can get it real quick. Keep it in camera here. kind of got to find the sweet spot. There it is. So once that's done, you can kind of pull back just a little bit, line that up, and then pull that out. So you pull the slide release out and release the trigger, holding the hammer down so it doesn't fly forward, and then you can just slide everything off. And then, of course, your spring and your bolt. And, oops, get that all in frame for you guys. That there, there's the pieces, there's that, and your magazine. And that's a field strip. And that's how you field strip the firearm. And to put it back together, you take your bolt, take your spring, line this back up with that right there. Go back, and one of my favorite things, I just want to mention it while I have it apart real quick, is how CZ cuts their slides on the outside instead of the inside, which allows for such a low bore access on the slides and on the firearms themselves. It also makes a really clean seal on the firearm at that particular junction, so like dirt and sand and mud can't get inside the mechanism, or it's significantly more difficult to get sand and water, or sand and mud and dirt and debris inside the mechanism of the firearm, which makes these guns, CZ in general, but makes these guns very reliable, very functional. There are tons of videos of guys putting these through mud tests like this. The P07 here has been through several mud test videos that I've seen other people do, and it just really locks up really well and keeps dirt and debris out of it, which is one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of CZ. I won't be doing that with this gun, but it is something to mention that it is proven and has been done. So after that, I'll get this out real quick. So after that, you just line up your groove in the lower in the slide here, bring it all the way back. Again, kind of line up those two tick marks right there so that you can press or push this back in and it just snaps back in. Function test. And you're good to go. So that's really the gun in a nutshell. I can't say enough nice things about it. I've just really enjoyed this gun. I've really enjoyed shooting it. I've enjoyed carrying it. I just love the gun. Everything about it. I just cannot say enough nice things about it. The one thing I will say about it, and it's really not the gun's fault, it's more of a holster support issue. The gun's only been out for, I don't even think it's been out for a full year yet. I think it was released March, April of 25. So holster support hasn't exactly caught up to the gun. The gun isn't it's not a Glock or a Smith & Wesson. So, it's not as the most popular gun in the world, but it is climbing in popularity, and there are more holster companies coming out. If you are interested in a holster for this gun, I have found that Falco Holsters does a really nice leather holster. And I was recently shown by a friend of mine that Slim Fit Holsters does a really good Kydex holster option for this gun. But the important part to that is you can it's being able to find light compatibility. Not every holster company is offering Olight holsters or oddball light options that people may choose to carry on their gun. And Falco, with leather, it's pretty easy to be able to do a leather holster for just about any light. But Kydex is a little bit different, and Slim Fit has a really nice selection option for tons of lights. Your basics like your stream lights are there too, but Olight and all of Olight's products are there too. So that's really cool. So Slim Fit holsters and Falco. Slim Fit holsters for Kydex and Falco holster for leather is what options I've found, and I like those quite a bit. Those have been really good options. The gun itself retails at about $1,500, so it is a premium gun. In comparison, I'll show this one real quick. In comparison with like the P09, the P09 here, or this is a P07. The P09 is running, I think you can find those in the $600-700 range. And then even the Shadow 2 itself is usually, I can find those about anywhere between $1,200-1,300 for just your regular Shadow 2 competition version. So in the end, you are paying a bit of a premium for this gun. But if you really enjoy the CZ Shadow and its competition capabilities, then you're really going to enjoy this. If you're looking for something that is really similar to that to carry as your EDC or everyday carry, this is it. This ticks all the boxes, and for the CZ fanboys like myself, this is what we were asking for. In my opinion, this is what we asked for. So ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much all I have for you today. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope it was educational, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.